Hey, how's it going? It's Keith Townsend, joined by Justin Warren from Pivot 9. Justin, thanks for joining me on the CTO Advisor Daily Dose.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, you know what? You might be wondering what is all that noise in the background and what's that big sign behind us. We're at Tech Field Day exclusive, at a Tech Field Day exclusive at CommVault Go.
Yeah.
You know what, Justin, I think I've gotten this question quite a bit, which is with all the conferences going on, we have, what is it? It's Nutanix Next, it's what's going on in Dreamforce and a bunch of other tech shows going on this week. Why CommVault Go? For you, why or why not? Why CommVault Go for you? Why did you select to go to CommVault? Other than the fact that Stephen asked us to come.
Yeah, well, there is a bit of that. So, whenever Stephen offers to come to something, it's like, actually, that does sound pretty cool.
Yeah.
I'd never been to Washington before, so that was sort of an interesting draw card. Also, CommVault has changed the way that they've done things in the last couple of years. So, I've been tracking them for a while, and I saw what they were doing a few years ago, and they were a little bit sort of dry and dusty and needed a bit of a refresh.
Mm-hmm.
And they've done a really outstanding job of refreshing the company, and I came here to just find out, okay, what does it actually feel like for customers and partners, and what do they think of the way CommVault has changed?
And I've asked around as well. I've had that same reaction. CommVault, I'm like, I remember having a CommVault sales rep about 7 or 8 years ago. Sure. I know exactly what they are. They're a backup company, but that backup label, I think, is kind of going away from most of these data protection companies. This broader term of data protection, whether it's Rubrik, Cohesity, Druva, Datos.io, the list seems to go on and on and on. Everyone's pivoting away from this idea of being a pure backup company. Have you kind of noticed that trend as well?
Well, backup's boring. No one really gets excited about backup, but when you start talking about data, and everyone talks about data management, that's a much more interesting and a higher level conversation. So you can start talking at C-level about data management and information management. So a lot of executives are actually interested in that, whereas backup is kind of just an insurance policy that you need to have, but you don't really care about it. It's not very sexy, and you want to spend as little as possible on it. CommVault and a lot of other companies are taking a slightly different view on that and trying to look more at, okay, how can we make more use of the data that you have? And it's like, okay, yeah, we'll back it up and we'll protect it because you need to keep it safe. It's important to run your business. But then what else can we do with that? Because we've already got access to this data.
Right.
We saw some people toying with the idea of calling it copy data management, which is a terrible term and needs to die. But it does show that move towards trying to look at how you deal with data across the enterprise and what you actually do with it, rather than just backing it up and keeping it safe.
So one of the things that I'm coming to the realization that at some point, this idea of secondary data, which, all of these players play in, CommVault and all of the other backup companies that I've mentioned, data protection companies I've mentioned, all play in kind of the secondary data market, meaning that it's going to be slow, cheap, and deep storage.
Yep.
Versus I think the use case for this data and data management is starting to become a much more apparently obvious thing that we need tier 1 class data for a lot of these needs. Do you see, at least I think there's going to be emerging a collapsing of this offering of data management in tier 1 storage? Do you see tier 1 vendors kind of attacking this data management problem head on and squeezing out secondary players?
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be able to do that. They'll certainly give it a red hot go. A lot of it seems to be trying to you need something which is very fast, low latency storage,
right.
So that you can access it quickly, which is for that primary use case.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, the reason I have this data is because it's my transaction system that I'm doing for when people buy and sell my products or something of that nature. Some of that, like particularly the storage vendors, some of that infrastructure will be used for things like data and analytics,
right?
Which is something which is kind of a secondary use of the data so okay, I've got all these people who bought my products, and I've generated some metadata from that, who bought it, when, what did they buy, and so on. That goes into my database system so that I can track who did that. But now I want to run analysis on that so that I can find out, so if I do a sales promotion, what should I do? What should I promote? How much should I change? Who's buying what? doing sales projections and that sort of thing. Some of that needs to be accessed very quickly, but it's a very large amount of storage as well. So how exactly you solve that problem depends on so there's an infrastructure level to that, and then there's also the software side of things. And it's really where the software side, that's where the battle's being fought.
And I think that's where a lot of the value is at. Ideally, we like to have all this stuff on tier 1 primary data and have, what we've labeled cold archive data, to have that available to do analytics on at the drop of a dime. Sure, I would love that capability, but that's really expensive to do.
Storage is just slow memory. If we could put everything in memory all the time and keep it safe, then that would be great. But
so a lot of the value, a lot of the differentiation between these companies have been kind of that secret sauce, finding the balance of how to hydrate this data, make it available as quickly as possible, make it available natively to our analytic apps, applications, databases, etc. And then offer that same level of offering that level of convenience, but also offering the level of cost and scale needed to host this type of data. I think is a lot of where we're seeing a lot of the speeds and feeds and features between vendor and vendor.
Definitely.
So anything out of the show you're excited to see kind of industry-wide, looking to see, either NetApp is doing this differently, or NetApp it has a different take on it, or the industry as a whole is going in a direction that, sorry, not NetApp, CommVault is doing differently. Apologies.
Let's see. So the Hyperscale thing that they've come out with, which I think is quite good, part of it's a defensive play against some of the newer players, but it's responding to a genuine market need that they have. I think it has encouraged CommVault to, again, as part of that refresh that they're going through. So it's a different approach for them to allow people to have access into the index that they've got, to have a horizontally scalable solution, which is very software based. So they're using partners to provide the infrastructure and underpinnings to that, but it's the CommVault software that layers it on top, and being able to spread that across multiple systems and then into cloud. I think the partnership with Google is also very interesting. Again, around that data and analytics thing, I'm seeing more and more partnerships from Google with particularly enterprise companies.
Yes.
So they're definitely moving in that direction. But they're also focusing more and more on their analytics capabilities, less about the undifferentiated heavy lifting that we see from folks like AWS, which is, okay, it's infrastructure as a service, you can put some dumb stuff out there and you just rent some servers. Great, but so what? Things are moving up the stack and getting more involved in that data. That's where the high value side of things is, and I think Google's quite smart about focusing on that part, and they have a lot of credibility in their ability to do things like machine learning and image processing. That is resonating with the market. I hear and speak to a lot of people who are making use of Google's machine learning capabilities, particularly around image recognition and high-performance computing and large data set analysis. There's a lot of people who are using that, and that's playing into some of the multi-cloud strategies that people have, where they'll go, look, we'll have some AWS for doing certain applications, but then we'll put data into Google Cloud to do particular analysis because it's better there. So that way we can mix and match whatever the best solution for us is, rather than going all in with one vendor, which I think is smart.
And Hyperscale is helping to power some of that. So where can people find out more about you and Pivot 9?
The good old interwebs is always good. You can look at our website, which is pivot9.com, or you can find me on Twitter most of the time as @JPWarren.
And of course, you can find me on the web, thectoadvisor.com, on Twitter @CTOadvisor. Subscribe to the podcast on thectoadvisor.com. Subscribe to the Daily Dose. We'll talk to you guys next CTO Daily Dose.